In the name of God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Please be seated. Hearing this first reading from Wisdom, I just had this flash this morning at the 8 o'clock of a conversation that I had with Jack Stevens, my son, when he was 8 years old. And the conversation went something like this. Dad, is God a boy or a girl? And I said, I don't know. What do you think? Always answer those kind of questions with a question. It's rabbinic. It's like Jesus. Come on. You don't answer those questions. So I said, I don't know. What do you think? He goes, well, God sounds like a boy name. And I went, okay. I said, what about Sophia? Because that's what wisdom is kind of, known as Sophia. He goes, oh, that's definitely a girl's name. And then I said, what about Yahweh? And he went, that's just a weird name. And I think as I just, this is an aside, forgive me, but it was just one of those things where I was like, I think these wonderings about the characteristics of God is such a helpful wondering. But I do caution that we get too clear on our answers on things, and that asking these questions about the nature of God, I think, whether we're 8 or 80, is really fruitful and helpful. But I digress, as I often do. Today's gospel, the bridesmaids and the bridegroom, there are about 8 sermons here. But Aaron warned me that it would be kind of ironic if I preached 8 sermons and you were all sleeping during a gospel that ends with, keep awake. And we just sang that hymn, Sleepers Awake. Waiting and change. Do you like to wait? Do you like change? There's a joke in the Episcopal Church that says, how many Episcopalians does it take to change a light bulb? And the punchline is, change? Neither one of those things make my heart sing right away. And yet, one thing that I think we should teach in kindergarten and continue teaching each and every day of our life is that waiting and change are constant. I love it when we kind of get to a place every once in a while and go, if only this would happen, then everything would be settled. You ever felt that way? Oh my gosh, now I hear it in my head. Oh, it's all settled. And I flinch. I go, oh no, because I know what's next. Change. And waiting. So in my family of 4, there are 2 people that move quickly. Right? And there are 2 people that do not. And I am definitely not the one that moves slowly. And I can remember being at my in-laws' house with my father-in-law, and I was mildly exasperated. Mildly. And I'm just like going, oh my gosh, if I had back half the time, oh my gosh, we could go to... And he looked at me and he said something that I've never forgotten. He said, Rob, some people move fast, and some people move slow. The sooner you learn that and accept it, the more joyful and peaceful your life will be. And this came from a man who lives with someone who moves at the speed of molasses on a cold day. He knows from which he speaks. Waiting. So hard. And yet it is a part of every day. We wait. And I kind of characterize waiting in kind of two extremely general terms. And David Lewis, who is a Lutheran theologian, I have to credit him with a lot of this, and also with this understanding of waiting is difficult. And he and I are in the same generation. And so like we both kind of are humming Tom Petty. The waiting is the hardest part. For those of you who are right in this area, you get it. For the rest of you, look it up. But it is hard. And yet there are these two characteristics of waiting, kind of categories, if you will. There's kind of holy expectation of like a waiting, a hopeful, it's a positive. It's like babies, like, that expectation that you're like, oh, I just talked to two people today that one was a great aunt and one's a grandmother, and they're just like, ooh, that kind of waiting that is like, oh, there's this expectation. We're getting ready to get into Advent. It's all about this waiting with hope, and it's positive. There's also a harder waiting, a waiting that is more, it's just harder. It's the waiting of being at a bedside, waiting for somebody to go be with God, watching vigil, holding vigil. My sister and I have this phrase, and we didn't make it up, but it is this kind of understanding, and we started talking about this about 5 years ago. It's called anticipatory grief. When you're like looking ahead going, it's coming. That waiting can be excruciating. And yet, here we are in a community as human beings that's what we do. We wait. Now, this isn't always passive either. There's activity, especially on this positive side. There's action. But also on the harder side, there's action. It's not passive. And I am wondering, and I invite you to wonder with me, where the good news is in this. And I suggest that the good news is that this waiting is part of our mission, part of our purpose as a Christian community. Because we don't wait alone. In these joyful times, we wait together. And in these harder times, we wait together. And I just imagine for a minute a church, a movement, as our presiding bishop likes to say, the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. If our understanding of who we are isn't about getting people in these doors and saying, come here and we'll tell you the answers, but rather us being nourished week by week by this community so that we can go out those doors and let people know that we are willing to be companions on this journey of waiting. To me, it's compelling to think about being invited to wait with. This morning, before the 8 o'clock service started, I was standing in the back, waiting for the bells to ring, and I went, wow, I am so fortunate. I am so fortunate that I get to be a part of this community. And let's be perfectly clear. We're nuts. In the best possible way. We're a little nuts. We actually are working on this grand experiment of loving each other, of being present to each other, of saying, yeah, your politics is crazy, but I'll sit next to you in church and worship with you. Because you know that I say that, and I always kind of threaten everybody, but I'm never going to do it, is like, if I took polls in here right now on what you agree on, whew, It could get exciting. However, week by week, we come together and we say, I'll wait with you. I'll be present to you. And for that, I am so grateful. So today, I invite you to hold where you are waiting. What is the change that is all around that you're like, ugh? And also look around at all these people that will hold it with you, that will wait with you. And may we not confine it to this room. May we be a community, a church, that sees one of our main purposes of going into the world and seeing to everyone, to the least, to the lost, to the last, to the first, to all of us. We will wait with you. Amen.